Welcome to another Good Dads podcast. I am Jay Fotsch alongside Will. Hot topics. Tell us a little bit about, before we introduce our guests, about being a father figure. Is this a hot topic, and in what way?
Yeah, well, I think anything that we do as fathers can be a hot topic, just trying to figure out how best to navigate different situations that come up, whether it be social media, screen time, how to better influence those around us.
Okay, well, I will let you introduce our guests then.
Yeah, hey, our guest today is Zach Troutman. Zach and I know each other personally, and to me, he is a 4F guy. And what I mean by that is he's the type of person you call if you want to talk about family, talk about football, talk about faith, but also talk about failure, and somebody you can be vulnerable around. He's worked at Ark of the Ozark for a lot of years. He's a football coach, one of the best coaches there is around, played football at Evangel, and Zach grew up in Florida, correct?
That is correct. Florida boy through and through.
Now, I don't know you personally, but I know you publicly because you know him personally. That's how you introduced him. Right. So I can't wait to meet you personally during this podcast and learn more about you. I guess the first question we got to ask is being a dad. So tell us a little bit about your family before we get into everything, because it sounds like you got a lot going on.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Yeah. I definitely appreciate it. Man, what a loaded question. And it's interesting because I was just talking about this with a group of guys Tuesday. Shout out to Man Up, my boy Tim. Really spent so much of my childhood thinking about what I'm going to do when I have kids, because of the things that I didn't have with my dad not being around. And so I think just always since I was young, just looking forward to the opportunity to give my kids everything I didn't have growing up. But unfortunately, you spend so much time giving your kids what you didn't have, and you forgot to give them the good things that you did have. And so I think it's been a good balance, but having so many great men around me, I think sometimes people think because you didn't have your dad growing up, that it's a sad situation, but like God knew it exactly what he was doing with my teachers, my coaches, my grandfather, my uncles, and I mean a lot of people in the community. So I have a 13 and 11-year-old Zach Jr. And Zion's 11, and to shorten it, those boys like saved my life. You know, being their dad has definitely kept me out of a lot of bad things. Being their dad has opened me up because I don't want any of the dirtiness inside of me to get onto them. And so, yeah, I mean, there's nothing that brings me more joy than taking my boys to school, picking them up, just being around them. You know, being a college athlete, a lot of people think you like to be on the scene and out in front of everything, but man, just a nice movie and good food, just in the bed with my boys and just talking about life and challenging them.
Nothing better than doing nothing with your kids.
Absolutely.
And having that opportunity. So Zach, can you tell us a little bit about Follow the Leader, organization that you started
Absolutely.
Many years ago?
Absolutely. So in 2015, I lost my best friend to suicide. And it's probably one of the, I don't say probably, it was definitely the hardest thing that I had ever dealt with. And where I'm from, you know, we don't talk about how you're feeling or what you're going through or what makes you sad. You typically can get angry or you can get happy. Those are the only two feelings that you can ever exhibit. So Adam's death really changed a lot because I never had someone, like not my best friend, not someone I just hung up the phone with, take their life, and just spent, 12 to 18 months trying to figure out why did he do it, how come I couldn't help him, are one of my other friends going to do it? Am I going to do it? A lot of people, when you lose someone to suicide that's so close to you, a lot of people close to the situation think that you may do it. And so I had a lot of people reaching out to me during that time, and went through some therapy, talked to my mentor, and really just tried to figure out, like, I know we serve a God that makes no mistakes, but it was so hard. I was so angry with God because I'm like, hey, this is just something that, like, doesn't happen to me. Like, man, you brought me out of the projects, and I'm doing all these awesome things with my family, the community. Like, why would you do this? Like, that doesn't really make sense. And so I was angry. I didn't want to ever admit or say out loud that I was upset with Adam, because it made me feel like I was less of a best friend. And then just after I did some therapy, just praying, talking to my mentor, it's like, hey, how can we turn Adam's suicide into something good? How can we create awareness? And for me, I wanted to keep Adam's name alive. And so when I thought about Follow Leader, just sat down, my wife and I, Sam, we're just talking about just kind of like names. And I thought, like, man, a good leader knows who to follow. Like, I have some great mentors in my life. And so then I created Follow Leader, and I've been fortunate enough to work with some awesome organizations, and go in and share Adam's story, talk about mental health, talk about burnout, talk about suicide prevention. And so really just using that platform to create safe spaces for students, adults, businesses, or whatever, just educating them. And yeah, it's really started because I just want to keep my best friend's his name and his memory alive. And I've been fortunate enough to be in a lot of schools and a lot of places of business to just talk about suicide.
So Zach, when I talk about being a friend, somebody that you're able to talk about failures with, you're very open with, what you go through. And you said something a year ago that really kind of stuck with me. And I can't remember where you said it, but you didn't want men around you that said, hey, I'm okay, or that weren't. Can you elaborate on your feelings on that? A group where you said, hey, I'm fine, and you look for deep relationships and try to get people in a spot where they feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable about what they're going through because of the stigma that's tied to mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about. My homeboy, Jonathan. Essentially what the transformation that happened inside of me is, a lot of people know me, but a lot of people don't know me. I was kind of at one point just everywhere doing everything. But there was a lot of stuff going on inside of me, and through therapy and journaling and stuff, I was killing myself on the inside because why wouldn't Adam share with me? Like, what was I doing that made my own best friend not say, hey, as soon as we hang up this phone, I was the last person to speak to him, hey, it's over. And I like punish myself. I could go speak in front of thousands of people, get a bunch of praise, but I would go sit in my truck and I'd just be bawling afterwards because my spirit was in conflict. I felt fake. Like, a lot of this stuff I'm saying on stage, I'm still working through, or do I even believe it? Does it just sound good? And so I was home in South Florida. Me and my boys were just gambling, hanging out, just checking in on everyone. We just play cards. And everyone that was at the table, and I said, hey, look, like, I love all y'all, but I don't want any superficial, surface friendships. Like, if we're really brothers, I need you guys to be open, especially about our shortcomings and the things that we're struggling with. So, because that's the only way we're going to be able to help each other. I said, look, I love y'all, but if you don't think you can do that, because these are guys I've grown up with, since kindergarten, first grade, then we just need to transition to acquaintances, because I can't bury another really good friend that I was connected with. I said, we're talking years of therapy, songs, food, all these things trigger all these things. I can't do it again. And so one of my buddies had said, I knew you were in town, so I took a few days off, and I'm from South Florida, we fish. And so him and I were trying to figure out where we're going fishing the next morning. And that night, I drove back to Fort Myers to my mom's house, and he called me. He said, hey, man, I didn't take days off of work. I actually got fired. I don't have a job. I've been looking. And I remember, like, breaking down because, like, prior to Adam's death, none of us would ever talk about getting fired. None of us would ever say, hey, I don't have a job.
I'm good.
And it would and that's what he said. Oh, man, I've been working so much overtime. I just took a few days off. You in town. You got your boys with you. We're going to go fishing. And it immediately, this was like 2 a.m., I was able to call some coaches and teachers and people I know because of all the things that I've been able to do when I come home. Like, hey, let's get you a job. And so we were able to find him a job within 48 hours. And he was making double what he was making. So, you know, sometimes people don't understand, like, I can't meet you where you're at if I don't know where you're at.
Right.
And so that was like one of the first times for me, because it's like, hey, oh, these boys are going to think I'm soft and all this stuff. And it's like, nah, like there's a hole in my heart. And I know all of y'all are hurting, but we don't even know how to talk to each other because everyone's wondering, how did this happen to Adam? No one wants to say his first name. We're all calling him his nickname. No one's deleted his number in their phone. I still got his number in my phone. And so I was like, hey, let's lessen the burden by sharing it with each other. And essentially that conversation kind of started a lot of like mental health check-ins throughout the week with each other in group messages or outside of a group message. Like guys are constantly checking in on each other. Guys start saying, I love you when you get off the phone and really just like I truly love you and care about your life. I want you to know that. And sometimes I wonder what Adam was feeling right before it was all over. Did he not feel loved, or did he not understand like you're passing the pain on the people that you love and people that love you? And so, yeah, that's pretty much how that happened with my friends. And so being able to do that with my friends and then helping people create spaces like that for their friends. When I became a QPR instructor, just some of those direct and non-direct cues that someone is struggling.
So the ZJ and Zion, they're 11 and 13 or 12 and 13?
11 and 13.
Yep. So Liam and Chandler, my boys, are 11 and 12. And so we live in a society where you see an increase in depression, increase in sadness, increase in kids that are isolated. You know, they're not going out there playing the games that like we all used to, or hey, what we're going to do in the neighborhood, we're going to play hide and seek or go out there and continually do sports. A lot of them are on video games, and different kids are on technology, which we had a hot topic on. How do you take what you've gone through and your mission of follow the leader and have those conversations or instill that in kids? Because kids at that age especially aren't the best communicators. How's school?
For sure.
Fine. What'd you learn? Stuff. Oh, okay. Sounds good. So, and also it can be.
What'd you learn at church this week? We asked our 6-year-old Jesus.
Yeah.
We learned about Jesus. Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah. Care to elaborate?
No, just Jesus.
Well,
Okay.
that's all it is.
This Good Dads podcast is brought to you in part by our generous supporters. This week, we'd like to thank the following: Table Rock Shores, Mr. and Mrs. Bob and Susan Biney, Midwest Auto Source, TSV Logistics, Monticello. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Visit our website at gooddads.com to learn how to contribute to the Good Dads mission.
So how do you take that the lessons that you have in your mission and kind of channel that to the boys?
I think one thing that Sam and I do is like our boys aren't allowed on screens or TVs Monday through Thursday. And so naturally, and we've done this for 4 or 5 years. So naturally you have to talk to each other. Obviously, if, you know, my kid's bad grade, I don't ever blame the teacher. My kid's bad behavior, I'm not blaming the teacher. So I think teaching them a sense of responsibility and holding them accountable consistently has helped my boys understand, like, we can't play the victim. Like, when bad things happen, especially if we aren't doing what we're supposed to do, to be truthful in regards to, like, follow a leader and suicide prevention. Like, I was a little uncomfortable with my boys knowing that Dad travels and speaks about this. They actually didn't know Uncle Adam died by suicide. A little over a year ago, my nephew told them, and he just thought they knew. And so I don't really have an answer for why I didn't. I think it just, I don't know, I think I'm still working through it, and I just didn't really want to answer those questions to them because I think at some point I'll probably have the same fear with them. And the relationship, the closeness I had with Adam, I probably don't have with anyone. And I know it sounds weird because I'm married and I'm a father, but like that was my road dog for 23 years, and it messed me up, like with close relationships. It makes it hard to believe like this my right hand right here, and you could do that. It really messed me up for a while. My marriage, parenting, I was so depressed that I couldn't see colors. Like it was really bad. But now that my boys know, there is a level of just transparency. Like, hey, mom and dad need to know what's going on so we can help you, because this issue can turn into this issue, and then this issue will turn into this issue, and then this issue leads you in jail, or you know. And so we have had, now that ZJ's 13 and he's in middle school, there's been things he's come home and shared that I'm like, oh, dang. Okay, let's talk about that.
Like this is happening already.
Yeah.
Like you're 13. Sure. This is already. We're already talking about this.
I didn't even want to say it. I didn't want to say it, but it's definitely has sped things up. But I mean, I knew the fear and the anxiousness that I was feeling inside when someone would say suicide. It's like you travel and speak in front of all these people, and you know it's a myth that if you say suicide, you're putting it in that person's head. But I truly felt like that to some degree with my own kids, because I know how bad my depression was, and then I know what happened to my best friend. And they know him as Uncle Train, and it's hard. But I think creating that environment consistently that tells your child, I'm one of the dads that freak out about the small stuff. Did you make your bed? Did you check your chores off? But something
then that means you're just a dad. Because
There
that's
you go.
just what dads do, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
but you know, and my sons will say, "Dad," but like they'll do something big, like break something, glass or something, and then they're like, "Dad, you're just calm," and I'm like,
That's how I am.
you know, and it's just it's a lot. It's weirder, but I think my boys have social media for athletics now, which I was totally against, and now this new day, but it's like everything. I can see everything. I can see what's being they're looking at. I can see who's pouring into them. And really, that's what I try to do when I pray with my boys every single morning. I take them to school, and I always end the prayer with, God, please allow my boys, if they do, to make any mistake, allow it to be their mistake and not because they were following someone. And I think over the
Say that again, Zach. That's
that
so
if
good.
you make any mistake today, allow it to be your mistake and not the mistake because you're following someone. Because I think that who doesn't want their children to be leaders, your daughters, your sons to be leaders? But I also want them to have the discernment to just know what's not good for them. I was telling my group of friends, I've never done a drug, never tried a drug. And a lot of people where I'm from, like even some of my homeboys, like, dang, not even when we were 13 and we're in Lakeland at that tournament. I'm like, nope, you remember? Like we couldn't even light the blunt up. Like I've never tried it. And my sons were like, almost like, because of where I'm from, when they go back home, they just see a bunch of dysfunction. And I tell my sons now, I'm like, dude, there could be anything and anything now.
Oh yeah.
You tried it for the first time and you're dead.
Yep.
And it was like, I hated to scare him, but I'm like, no, that's good. And so I think just being honest, and my kids know that like any kid that comes around, I'm going to check them. Yep. And since they're young, you decide who your kids hang out with based on the parenting. Like, I might have a kid that might be a little challenging, but I know his parents are trying. I know they're good. He come to coach house, we're going to fix it.
Yep.
But I might have a kid, he's awesome, but his parents are bad. So I'm like, who is he really? And then, you get in this kid's phone, that kid thinks you're not listening. And it's like, oh, yeah, no one's paying attention to you at home. I had a young man at our house not too long ago, and I was praying with the boys and kissing them. And when I walked out, he said, your dad does that every night? And it just made me break down because, like, my boys don't know any different.
Right.
But I ain't have that. But this young man was saying, like, dang, your dad prays with you and kiss you every night? And, you know, I was just, a tear came down because I'm like, dang, he was me. And so that next morning I went and grabbed donuts. Like, I made sure to just try to love on him a little bit. But my boys know Dad's just open. And ZJ did ask, like, why didn't I tell him about Uncle Adam's suicide? And I just said, Dad's, like, still hurting. I wanted to be honest. And I said I was scared.
And this is why it's so important for dads. Listen, there's not a book on how to be a perfect dad. And we're all doing the best we can. It's important to surround yourself with other fathers to be able to give you advice and become better, because you got different ways of looking at things. Hey, when do my neighbor took his life? Boys don't know that. Think it's a heart attack. When do you have that conversation? Me being an addict, when's that type of conversation happen as they get older? So it's good to talk to people and surround yourself with strong, godly men to help you, navigate these waters. So we're going to kind of jump around, cover a wide range of topics on this. So you grew up without a father,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an epidemic in the Black community. I've heard you talk about before. Mm-hmm. So if you wouldn't mind, and I'm fascinated by hearing this. Number one, what happens when you tell a story about, if you're okay sharing, like what happens when the principal sees you and your wife at church, kind of the reactions you get, and then you have a conversation with the teachers about the boys before school. You talked about being accountability. So how did growing up without a father shape you, and what lessons do you try to instill in your boys so they can keep the legacy that you have with them going for generations?
Well, I don't want to dive too deep into the race thing, but it's important with my kids being biracial, and I can't speak to anyone's intent, but I think I'm covered in tattoos. I think there is an element, especially in a public school system, that sees a brown boy and thinks that the black dad isn't active. And so I take a lot of pride in that, being at everything. I don't miss anything. But also, you don't know I'm educated. You don't know where I live. You don't know the things I do. You just, if I show up in a T-shirt and I'm covered in tattoos, this assumption. And so for me, there's almost like a victim mentality, especially here. A lot of black and brown boys think they got to be a thug, they got to be hard. And I'm sure that's like that in South Florida, but my boys are being raised here, and I'm seeing a lot of these young men. I was a school counselor. I worked at the Boys and Girls Club. And the truth is like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to be that. And so for me, I tell the teachers straight up, like, these white teachers, like, listen, ZJ and Zion don't come from the street. If they doing anything, they trying to act gangster, let me know, because that's not them. These boys got an extra set of bed sheets. They got a game room in their house. They got a garage door opener in their parents' vehicle. Like, they don't live like that. So if they're trying to be that, that's a problem. But what are we doing in a society that tells a kid that he has to do that instead of doing something else? And so I had it happen to me in grad school. When I was going to grad school at Evangel, we're in a group therapy class, and the teacher said, I have a Florida Southern dialect. She said I have to talk like her. She's from Stratford. She said, I need you to talk on this level. And I said, in front of everyone. I mean, people were crying in there because they couldn't believe this. A professor said this to me. And I remember saying, you basically just told me I needed to talk like you to be taken serious or to get your respect. And like, I would never say that to you. And me and her are really great friends to this day. Evangel did a lot of stuff to make sure I didn't make it a bigger deal. But firing her wasn't the right thing to do. We needed to educate her. And I think for, like, my boys in particular, and a lot of black and brown boys, I had never seen a poor white person until I moved out here. And so my mentor was like, you have to stop thinking God has only created you to help black and brown boys. There are a lot of white boys that need your help. And this is coming from a white man. And I look at the free and reduced lunch when I was working at Reed, and I'm like, oh my God, like 97% white. This is crazy. There's poor white people. And so allowing God to like just use me however he wanted, like just use me. Just use me. I don't care who and what, when, just please use me. Allow me to elevate these children and let them see the value in themselves. And like, I love being a dad so much, but I don't want my kids to ever think that their blackness like is a handicap. I'm like, no, it's a superpower. And unfortunately, a lot of these kids in the public school system, or these kids just out here, they think, oh, I'm black, feel sorry for me. Oh, nah, we got to go get it. Even if you got to work twice as hard, let's go get it. Because, I think, representation matters, but so does proximity. And so you see someone that looks like you doing something, you can go do it. And that I just get fired up about that because I work so hard I don't want my kids out in school or at church acting like they're so gangster and stuff. And I was like, no, I'll pull your gangster card in front of everybody. Like,
so that kind of goes back to the personal accountability that you were talking about, just as being a dad to your kids.
For sure.
Also. So it's almost kind of just full circle with that, as what you kind of mentioned a little bit earlier as well.
You make them sit in front of class, don't you?
Oh, yeah, they know. They already know. 100%.
That's great. And so one of the things that we kind of want to talk about is obviously you help any kids, and I'm sure that when you see one, you talked about it, man, your dad kisses you every night like that, or says those kids that you identify that that come from a background where male's not involved. What advice would you give somebody that necessarily they may not have kids, or their dad and their friends, their kids' friends have a lack of father figure around? What advice you give people like that as far as stepping in to that role, or how best to not intentionally come in there, but what are advice that you have on what they should do in order to impact that child's life for the better?
I think the most important thing, and fatherlessness doesn't have a color, and so I think young boys just need to love themselves. Teaching a young man and a young girl how to love themselves is so important, because that was probably the biggest thing for me. Is like, yeah, I was a good athlete, but like, I'm so much more than a football player. And to be honest, I don't even think I cared about football as a player as much as I do, but I knew it was my only way out of a bad situation. And so when I was given the necessary tools to stand up for myself, to love myself, and to do that on a consistent basis, I think that was the most important. That's the most important thing you can give a child or someone that you care about. Because when I think about depression and the months and years that I've been depressed, like, I couldn't physically look at myself. I hated who I was. But then I would get on stage. I would go do something amazing for somebody. And like, that no longer could fill this cup. But I didn't learn how to love myself. You look good, you feel good, you're doing nice things for people, but you're never experiencing happiness and joy, and it's because no one ever taught you. I felt very undeserving. And so I think teaching young men and women, fathers, we're needed, we're necessary, we need that. You need that influence. But I'm around young men, 26 to 28, that are still working through not being told they're loved by their dads. And so
that's a big thing too, man.
For sure.
So just to hear your dad, like, I mean, I've talked to a lot of my friends that are you look at your childhood, or you talk to other people. I've talked to my dad before, and a dad that has not told their, I don't know, I'm just going to say sons, just because I'm speaking that they don't love each other, or they're proud of them.
Proud.
Those two things, like, if you never hear that from your dad, it's a long life.
It's going to impact you, and it's going to be hard for you to receive it from anyone else. And that's that's the pattern that I've seen in some of the men that have shared with me. But I think just teaching someone to love themselves. I mean, if you could see yourself through the lens of someone who loves you, I think it would change the world, honestly. I had a sad story growing up. I really did. But, man, I had the best grandma, like, in the world. Like, every day she told me I was her handsome grandson. Every single day that we saw each other. Like, I could sit here and be mad about, but everyone has a sad story. Like, all of us have some stuff that could have changed the trajectory of our life. But, like, my grandma, like, literally was just the best human. And I'm just, like, I could never imagine at 38 now saying, like, thank you, God, for giving me those challenges, because it's definitely molded me. I don't think I would be this great of a dad, honestly. Like, I really don't. I think it's easy to be a lazy parent. Oh, my goodness. It is. You can DoorDash, and you can turn Netflix on, and you can say yes to going places, and we can sit on our tablet and do fantasy football. It is literally set up for us to be mediocre parents. Like, it's set up. And if you make money, oh, gosh, you can be a mediocre parent. You can pay someone to train your kid. You can pay to get your kid on a really good team, and you can be mediocre. But being a great father, like, you got to be intentional. It is a grind. It is a grind.
I love hearing you talk about the not being victim mentality, because we're all dealing with stuff. And, you know, the story that I tell, and I tell to my company and the salespeople, you know, there are two guys in prison, two brothers. One was in prison, one was out being successful. They asked the guy that was in prison, hey, what took you on this path? Well, it was my father. He was a drunk. He beat my mom. He wasn't there for us, and that's why I am the way I am. And then they asked the other brother that was a success, hey, what made you successful? He goes, it's my dad. He's a drunk. He beat my mom. He wasn't there for us, and I could never imagine turning out that way. And so we're all dealing with the stresses of different levels and different trauma at different times. And it is, you know, using that as fuel and getting on the right path, because history does repeat itself, and our kids watch what we're doing. And regardless of what's going on, hey, they're watching, and you know, we need to equip ourselves to put our best foot forward, to put them on the right path, and give them a good example to follow. And so, Zach, one of the things that I've seen you do is you obviously have a passion for football. You played at Evangel. You coach wide receivers coach for those Arc Lunkers right now. You also have a speed how would you describe
wide receiver development in strength and condition, or speed, agility, and conditioning?
And I bring that up.
Stickum.
I bring that up because you go to Zach's house, and he's got training on a certain day, and so he's been able to connect with so many kids through football and through developing them physically, which turns into developing them as well spiritually and emotionally, and all that is tied together. And so I'm really impressed how you use your patent. And hey, sports isn't every dad's thing. Sure. And so, just like sports isn't every kid's thing. And so I think it's important to us as fathers, whether it's our own kids or the friends of our kids or somebody else, you know, if they have a passion, or we have a passion, to bring them on into that, and try to mold them into being better people.
Absolutely.
Well, Zach, we really appreciate you being so open and vulnerable with us today. We also wanted to thank you by giving you something.
Oh man!
As a matter of fact,
it was just you
had something. You had something to present, Zach.
Well,
before
not
we
really
say
presenting,
goodbye.
but just showing. So
okay,
I've competed against Zach for a long time.
What is this?
The last victory that I had against his team was in 2021, and I would like to say that this is how good of a coach he is and how good of a job he does. That's the 1 year that we beat them, and I was so happy that I went and had my own trophy made that says Solera Warriors Undefeated City Champions 2021 Head Coach Will Cox. So I lack friends and hobbies.
What kind of dad is that? Man,
it's one that wants to sit on 4 years ago and make it. It's a dad who wants to make his own trophy,
Yeah.
just so
Man.
he can kind of throw it back in
That's
your
why.
face.
That's why when I see Liam, I say, "Uncle Z got you. Don't listen to your dad.
And
Don't
he,
listen to your dad."
well, he has taken that to heart because his eyes turned away from me, and I had to say thing. Well, hey, Coach Zach said this. Oh, that's the greatest idea in the world. Even though I said the same
That's
damn
my
thing
guy,
300
man. That's
times.
my guy.
And
That's my guy.
I love you, and you know you're doing God's work. And even if you don't feel like it, man, I mean, I couldn't be more impressed with you as a man. And I know that you aren't perfect, but everything that you do for these kids and these young men, especially to put them on the path. I mean, listen, it's what Good Dads is all about. Our world looks so different with a strong male or father in the home. Boy, girl, it doesn't matter, and the statistics prove it. And so, you doing your part to help that and mold the next generation is phenomenal. And I love you, man, and we thank you for being here.
Appreciate you. Love you too, man.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
so much. And that's from a winner from 2021.
2021.
so basically
4 years ago.
But
Thank you, man.
All right.
Appreciate
Let's get that
it.
last part out.
And thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
I appreciate it.